Today's video, like I mentioned yesterday, I'm going to read an email. I have gotten a good amount of emails, and some of them are pretty long. So to keep you engaged and not make the videos 10-15 minutes long, for these particular emails, I'm just going to read them because they're good. Today's email comes from William. He says, "My name is William, and you are welcome to share my story and my name. First, I'd like to say your videos have been a tremendous help to me during this process of recovery. It's only been 52 days clean time for me, but it has been a difficult time getting here. However, I see that 60 mark, and I am excited to get there, one day at a time. My addiction to drugs began at an early age, about 12 or so. I come from a long line of addiction. In my family tree, both my grandfathers, mother, father, stepfather, uncles, cousins, and sisters are drug addicts and or alcoholics. I never knew either of my biological grandfathers due to alcoholism. My father passed away about 5 years ago due to alcoholism, and my mother passed away this year due to an accidental overdose of pain meds. Growing up was challenging because my parents loved me and worked hard to give me a good life. However, struggling with both alcohol and drug addiction makes life difficult to manage. Duh, right? Anyways, my parents fought a lot, and things were really violent at times. When I was 10, they divorced. I lived with my father for a while, which entailed him being gone for weeks at a time using drugs. I was left either alone or staying with friends at 10 years old. Eventually, I started living with my mother and stepfather. Both drank heavily and were using drugs as well. My mother was very aggressive during intoxication. This, of course, led to more violent fighting. Things continued this way for about 2 years. We eventually settled in Florida. My first drug experience. My mother was a binge user. She would do okay for a little while and then spend about a week or two using and drinking. After one particular bad binge where she successfully destroyed the house, I confessed my frustrations to a new friend. Later that day, I smoked pot for the first time. I remember enjoying the escape that pot offered. At first, it was an after-school thing. I met new people and found a way to distance myself from my problems, or so I thought. It wasn't long before I began using cocaine, LSD, and ecstasy. I really didn't care about anything important. I left school after flunking ninth grade twice. It's difficult to get passing grades when you never go to school. I didn't care about anything in the future, other than when I would get high again. Didn't care about how much I used. I would mix multiple drugs because I always wanted to be higher, so I didn't realize I was actually unhappy. Some time passed and I received my GED and began working full-time as a manager of a fast food restaurant. At 17, I moved out of my mother's house. Of course, I was doing nothing but getting high, not having a care in the world. When my paycheck wouldn't cover my drugs, I started stealing money from work. Didn't take long before I was caught and terminated. It certainly didn't stop my drug use. Neither did being kicked out by my roommates. With nowhere to go, I spent time bouncing from couch to couch, and even spent a few weeks sleeping on the floor in someone's walk-in closet. Being at that low point never awoken me to the fact that I was a drug addict. I thought my hardship was the world's fault, so F the world. I would do anything to be high. I would steal, scam, lie, and sell drugs to support my habit, all to be high. What a cycle. I'd be in misery just to be high, but I wanted to be high because I was in misery. Well, that's addiction for you. Moving on. I did manage to get in a bunch of trouble and did want a fresh start. Well, kind of, I guess. I decided to move back home to South Carolina to avoid my mounting legal problems, personal drama, and basically hitting a near rock bottom. My fresh start was doomed because I brought drugs back with me because I knew I would just want them. I never changed anything but the state. I continued using easily, meeting other addicts, got in even more serious legal trouble, and once again was in misery. I was 20 at this point and once again began working in restaurants. Introduction to opiates. Before opiates, I obviously used drugs. I would use weed daily and use various drugs as well. At around 20, I did get a little tired of always being broke and wanted nicer things in my life, so I managed to slow down a bit. Of course, I thought so anyways. Working long hours in a restaurant is hard on the legs. I began having RLS around this time. I shared this information and my frustration about not having health insurance at the time with a coworker. I didn't realize at the time, but the coworker was an opiate addict. He gave me some Loratabs to help sleep. I quickly discovered I enjoyed the high from these pills. so I would continue taking them from time to time as well as other drugs. Around 21, I had my first kidney stone. Then a month later, a second kidney stone. I was given some pain pills for me. I was given some pain pills at this time. I continued taking them well after the pain stopped. Before I realized what I was doing, I was hooked. I had experienced drug withdrawal and cravings from the variety of narcotics I would consume, but nothing like the agonizing pull of opiates. It was now in a solid addiction of using every day. Continuing on. After some time, I met my wife, and we quickly became pregnant with our first of 4 children. I hid my current drug addiction from my wife. She was aware of my past indiscretions. I continued to steal money from work to pay for my addiction. As I stated, I have kidney stones, often. At my current age of 32, I've had well over 30 stones, 2 having to be medically removed. The first one that needed to be removed happened before our second child was born. By this time, we had health insurance. This particular stone was bad. I was in agony for a week before the surgery and 2 weeks after. I was prescribed multiple strong pain pills to help with the pain. As a result, I had lots left over after I healed. I like to think that these events helped build my addiction to opiates. Of course, if that is even a true statement, since I was an addict before then as well. Road to recovery. As it does, time passed, and I continued lying, cheating, and stealing to support my habit. I stole money from my wife, work, our bill money, any and everyone. After some time, my wife discovered my dark secret. She wanted to help me. I began Suboxone treatment. Unfortunately, I did not last but a few months. I was still using other drugs and even trying to take opiates to feel the high. Ultimately, I relapsed and began taking more and even stronger opiates. I continued down the same lonely road, lying, cheating, and stealing. I never felt guilty during this relapse. I was more resentful that I was being forced to stop. I now see I had no clue how or the drive to be clean. After realizing my relapse, my wife confronted me. I admitted and then began methadone treatment. This time I did try harder. This is when I first understood I am an addict, and I have a disease. After some old legal issues caught up with me, I wasn't able to dose methadone for about 3 days. During this time, I felt that I was ready to be finished with methadone treatment. I honestly wanted to be free. Sadly, I wasn't ready. I had no plan, idea, or even freaking a clue about serious opiate withdrawal. I had 5 doses of methadone left, and I thought I could taper myself with what I had left. Sadly, that lasted about 4 days. I relapsed hard. I began using extremely strong opiates, shooting pills, and even doing heroin several times. When I couldn't find drugs, I would doctor shop, fake a backache or kidney stone to get a script. I continued this for several months. I regretfully left my wife and kids just to be around opiates more. After several knot-offs while driving with very close calls, I finally managed to total my car while driving because I nodded off. Thankfully, it was a tree and a light pole, not some family. After 2 interventions, I agreed to come home and get my shit together, also known as treatment. Recovery. I spent nearly 2 years on methadone. I worked hard on my understanding, basically myself, why I use, triggers, personal issues, relapse prevention, and set small and big goals. The team at my clinic was great. I met twice a month with my counselor, attended NA meetings, and worked at tapering myself down from 100 milligrams to 25 milligrams. We also made a plan for my detox with supportive detox medicine. On October 6th at 7 a.m. was my last dose of methadone. Detox. I was going to begin with the supportive meds, a multivitamin and 5-HTP supplement. Also, I planned to drink lots of water. The first few days were difficult. Overall discomfort, RLS in my arms and legs, anxiety, fast heartbeat, and me in the toilet were close friends. By day 6, I felt like hell. I was in misery, thinking, when would it end? All I could do was lay my head in the pillow and scream. I was thinking I made a terrible mistake. I began monitoring my blood pressure and heart rate. My chest hurt every 160 beats a minute, and my blood pressure was getting a bit concerning. I asked to go to the ER because I was scared of what was happening. The ER was very understanding and helping me by prescribing a small amount of Ativan and Clonidine. They both helped calm things down some. Sleep was a luxury that I couldn't pay for. I spent about 8 days with literally without a touch of sleep. Doing some research, I discovered melatonin, an over-the-counter natural sleep aid. That finally helped me get a better night's sleep. It was still rocky at times. Other symptoms came and went. Today came and went. Sneezing, crying, depression, and the toilet. And the toilet and I were still good friends. Sorry about that. By day 14, I started to improve a little bit. Still felt like crap, but could actually get up and move a bit. Energy and a positive attitude were always in short supply. By day 30, I began having good days and bad days. I paced myself on the good days, and the bad days were difficult. After day 30, the psychological symptoms started coming on stronger. I had stopped being so emotional. Stupid commercials would make me cry, but anger and frustration stepped in that spot ahead. Some days being around me was like living with a drill sergeant or that chef from Hell's Kitchen. As of November 28, 2015, I am at day 52. Things are still day by day. Morning time is always difficult. I always feel the worst. But around noon, I improve and start to feel better. I had to learn how to adjust to this process. Sometimes I need a break when I do too much. My wife and I homeschool our two oldest children, and we still have to contend with the two youngest. On top of that, we have a home-based business, so stress is always in abundance. Coping is a skill that takes practice. Sometimes I listen to music to calm down, read or watch blogs from other recovering addicts, or if I can just lay down in a quiet room for 15 minutes. On the extremes, I smack a metal wrench to a metal pipe a few times. Obviously, that one is an extreme example. However, I am not using drugs to cope, and I don't hurt anyone. LOL. It's all good. This is all still a process, and time is my enemy and friend. I desperately want to break the cycle of addiction in my family. I have 4 wonderful children now, and I don't want them to have the same experiences I've had. In short, well, that's my story. Well, about half. The crazy stuff is probably best left to a therapist, and messy stuff probably better left for something like a priest. Not to mention there's still a lot of stuff that's probably just better left unsaid and left in the past. I know my story is not necessarily extreme, but it may be just what one person reads. It may, but if maybe just one person reads it and says, damn, this guy had a crazy life and he got clean, well, maybe I can too. Because I know I do the same thing when I read some life stories. Ryan, thank you for your hard work and support. Your words have helped me so much these past 2 months. I honestly am beginning to feel like a whole new person. I have wonderful people like you to thank for that. As always, thank you, William. Thanks, William. It's a great email. And if you'd like to share your story, you can email me at ryan@comsupport.com, and in the subject line put YouTube story, my story, and let me know if you want to use your first or last name or stay anonymous. Okay, keep watching. Questions or comments below. Thanks.